So here's this chart, and Isaiah actually spreads out over how many kings from Judah? We'll go into verse 1 of chapter 1. 4 of them, right? The vision of Isaiah the son of Amoz, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. So that's a long time, okay? That's a pretty good swath of time that Isaiah is prophesying as it relates to these kings of Judah. His message goes to the kings of Judah and the people of Judah, and ultimately he'll be kind of the one that deals with Hezekiah towards the end of this process. So of those four, Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, how many of them were good? All right, you're going to say one, which would normally be a pretty good guess. I got two. All right, so I got a 1 over in this corner, I got a 2 back there. Anyone want to take 3? I would. Okay, I'm going to take 3. Everybody else has got 4. Let's look. Let me show you. So let's go to 2 Kings, okay? Let's go and look at what the text tell us about each of these kings. So 2 Kings chapter 15, verse 1. In the 27th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, began Azariah, son of Amaziah, king of Judah, to reign. Now, don't get confused by how his name is listed there in the King James. That's Uzziah. 16 years old was he when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was that, and he did that which was, what's the text say in verse 3? He did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. Okay, so Uzziah, there's one. Okay, there's one that did right in the sight of the Lord. Skip down to verse 32. Same chapter, 2 Kings 15. Sorry for your eyes. 2 Kings 15. I'm not showing you up. Am I? No, I'm not even showing you that up there. I can't show you that up there. So in the 2nd year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, began Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, to reign. 25 years, so that's 5 and 20, 25, 52, 77 years. Okay, that's a long span between those two kings. In Jerusalem, his mother's name was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, in verse 34. He did according to all that his father Uzziah had done. So, 2 of them out of the 4 are spoken of as have done good. Go to chapter 16 now. Chapter 16 and verse 1. In the 17th year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, king of Judah, began to reign. So Uzziah, Jotham, now we're to Ahaz, the third of the 4 that Isaiah was present for. And he began to reign. 20 years old was Ahaz when he began to reign, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and did not that which was right in the sight of the Lord his God, like David his father. Now keep in mind, they always refer back to King David as all their fathers. Okay, they're not necessarily in the lineage that way, but they would always refer back to King David as the one that was kind of the example that they were all kind of pointing to. But so first 2 did what was right in the sight of the Lord. Ahaz comes along and he decides, I want to behave like the Israel kings who were never good, right? None of the kings of Israel were ever good. And so if I ever ask you a question, how many of the kings of Israel were good, or were they good? You just say no to that. Always say no to that, because none of them were in Israel. But 2 out of the 3 so far described here in the days of Isaiah are listed as good. Ahaz changes that, and he doesn't do what's right in the eyes of the Lord. Now jump to chapter 18. Verse 1. 2 Kings 18, verse 1. So now it came to pass in the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, that Hezekiah, the son of Ahaz, king of Judah, began to reign. 25 years old was he when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years, 1645, 77. That's well over 100 and so years between these 4 kings. And Isaiah is kind of sandwiched in the middle of all of them, where he kind of hits the very end of Uzziah and carries in through Hezekiah. And we'll see it here in a minute. But he did that, verse 3, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that David his father did. So 3 out of the 4 that Isaiah spans are described as kings who did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord. And yet, Isaiah's prophecy against Judah is what? You're coming to an end. He's in an odd time to be saying that, and it'll be a while. Let me go back up here, because I have to show this to you on this computer. So, look if you can see it. I'll try to show it to you here on as best I can, as big as I can. So, there's those kings, right? We kept referencing Pekah, the king of Israel, and he was in charge of Israel at the time some of this was going on. You've got these other prophets working at the same time. Hosea is talking to Israel. Micah is talking to Judah. Isaiah is speaking to Judah. But in the midst of all that, what happens to Israel? Captivity, right? But Judah lasts what? Yeah, so they're many years later before they're going to go through several kings. I'll widen this out for you a little bit and bring it up onto the bottom of your screen. They're going to go through Manasseh, Josiah, Jehoiakim, Zedekiah. Then the destruction of Jerusalem comes. But Isaiah is already going to be talking about these kinds of things. And then he's going to talk about the promise that's way out into the future of Jesus, the Messiah that's coming. And so it's an interesting conversation as Isaiah is going to have with Judah, and in particular Hezekiah. And you go into the Chronicles, and he outlines it pretty clearly, these conversations that Isaiah comes and has with Hezekiah as it relates to the challenges and difficulties that the people or that Hezekiah was experiencing based on the choices and decisions that they were making. It's interesting because right from Hezekiah then, we end up with who? Manasseh, and he's just flat out evil. Okay? Manasseh's just evil. And you go and read about the Chronicles in relationship to Manasseh, he's just evil. And so you've got good king, good king, good king. Ahaz goes, I like Israel's kings better. I think I'll act like them. So you got that 16-year period where he kind of goes in the wrong direction. Hezekiah comes on the scene. He recognizes the mistakes of that, tries to get the people back on the right track, does so in so many ways. But Hezekiah stumbles. Go to 2 Chronicles chapter 32. 2 Chronicles chapter 32. Now I want you to notice verse 24. 2 Chronicles 32, verse 24. So, in those days Hezekiah was sick to the death, and prayed unto the Lord, and he spake unto him, and he gave him a sign. But Hezekiah rendered not again according to the benefit done unto him. For his heart was lifted up, and therefore there was wrath upon him and upon Judah and Jerusalem. Notwithstanding, Hezekiah humbled himself for the pride of his heart, both he and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so that the wrath of the Lord came not upon them in the days of Hezekiah. And so, Hezekiah is a good king, but he's not a perfect king. And some pride kicked into Hezekiah's life that created some problems that Isaiah, 2 Kings would illustrate for us, the record of Isaiah will illustrate for us, where he's got to come and have some pretty sobering conversations with Hezekiah. And he basically initially tells Hezekiah, listen, you're what? Yeah, get your house in order, because your life's coming to an end. Hezekiah goes over against the wall and just prays and prays and prays to the Lord. And the text basically says God hears him and says, okay, I'll give you 15 more years and you'll continue to live, but the consequence that coming is coming. And the challenges that came upon them because of the decision making and the pride that they have. Anybody recall what that pride was, by the way? What the pride, what was he proud about? What did he do? You may remember that piece of history. Let me ask a secondary question, maybe it'll help break your memory. So there are basically two real enemies that they're having to deal with. Assyria and who? Well, Israel in some ways, but a foreign kingdom. Babylon, right? So you got Assyria and Babylon. So these princes from Babylon come down to Jerusalem. And Hezekiah goes, hey guys, come on in and see all my wealth. Right? It's like, going and buying a Maserati and sit in your garage with the keys in it and then tell everybody, hey, the garage is unlocked. Come on in, right? That's kind of what he did. And it wasn't just that he was trying to show them how God had blessed him. He's puffed up about it. That's where the pride is. And he's so proud about all this wealth that he had gained and all these great blessings. And God had to humble him and to kind of get him back on track. And so that's what causes this ultimate scene. Manasseh comes along, and secular history indicates that he most likely had Isaiah killed. In fact, some allude, let me share one more text with you outside of Isaiah, and then hopefully you can remember all this when we come back next Wednesday to set this backdrop for you before we start talking about the narrative itself. Go into that book of faith there in Hebrews chapter 11. Now I want you to notice, so when he talks about the acts of faith of various individuals, and he talks about how some received resurrection in verse 35, while others faced challenge and difficulty. Notice verse 36, others had trial of cruel mockings and scourgings, yea, moreover of bonds and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn asunder, were tempted, were slain with the sword. They wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, and tormented. Many secondary writers, as it relates to biblical narrative, claim that Isaiah was one of them they're talking about when he says here some of them were sawn asunder. And there are many who conclude that Manasseh had Isaiah destroyed or killed in that fashion. Now again, that's secondary. We don't have that biblical record of what actually ultimately happens to Isaiah. That's what secular history seems to unfold as it relates to him. But he does leave the scene. And his, as the text said, his prophecy work happens within those four kings. Then the evil Manasseh hits the stage, and then you don't really hear from that point further. We don't know anything about Amos either, by the way, his dad. We do know that he had two sons. They're mentioned in one is mentioned in chapter 7, the other is mentioned in chapter 8. But we don't know much about his father that was labeled there at the beginning of chapter 1. And a lot of that introductory things you can read. If you pick up one of the booklets back there, you'll be able to see some of that extra history and so forth in that. And so next Wednesday night, we'll start actually talking about the book and introducing the book itself, and using this outline that we stuck back there, and you can grab on your way out this evening. I know. No, I'm talking Isaiah. Manasseh had Isaiah. All that I was talking about, the torn or sawn asunder, I'm talking about what happened to Isaiah. Of according to your secular history, at the hands of Manasseh. Yeah.